This is what it's. It's just I forgot there's stairs. Jump!
We can still go. I mean,
Mayor brought some light reading.
All right. Everybody thumbs up. You can hear me get out there. I can hear myself, so you guys can probably hear me just fine. Awesome. All right. My name is Jay Hooman. I'm one of the founding members of the Marysville Community Coalition. Thank you so much for coming today on this really lovely afternoon. We really appreciate everybody coming, obviously with questions, and we're going to basically just kind of go right into those questions. I'm actually going to come down here and I'm going to post the microphone on the stand. So as you have questions or discussion items, please feel free to make your way down to the microphone, and then you can address our invited guests this evening, which is Mayor John Meering, and we have School Board Director Beth Moiby and School Board Director Connor Krebs. So everybody say thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. If you all want to say anything before we get started, feel free. Otherwise, I'm just going to head down here and put the mic on.
Let's answer some questions.
All right. He says, let's answer some questions. Who wants to come down first? And we will have questions from live members online as well. So if anybody online has questions, feel free to put those in the chat. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Carrie Velasquez. I'm a teacher for 25 years in the district. I teach at Liberty. I am a homeowner. My kids go to school here. They went to Liberty with me. And my son has graduated and my daughter is going to be a senior in high school. In my time in Marysville, I've probably been on every committee you could ever ask for. I am the first one to step up and volunteer when I'm asked. So my question is, when schools were looked at being closed, why was there not a committee that was formed? And I ask this because I was part of the boundary committee several years ago, and it was a really great experience with a great leader that really helped us. And we looked at a lot of data, and one question that came up was our significant drop in enrollment in our high schools and the division in our community. And we asked specifically if we could look at putting our high schools back together and going down to one high school, which seems like a good idea when we can't even support our programs at our high schools right now. I am part of the booster club here at MP, and we are constantly asked, it's a very small group of parents, but we're constantly asked to help with athletics and things like that. So I feel like there's a lot of good ideas out there that could have come from a committee instead of just close the old schools. There could be some restructuring that could be done that could make our school district way better and keep our kids here and build our programs. And so I'm wondering, why was there not a committee? Why was it a top-down decision? And thank you again for being here.
Figure it out. No. Oh, yes. Maybe turn it up a little, unless y'all can hear me. Thank you for your question, Gary. And I think just to reiterate your question, why wasn't there a committee put together specifically to decide what schools were closed? I don't know if I can answer why there wasn't. I can tell you that there should have been. I think that's an important decision to make. I think, and I want to try as much as I can tonight not to speculate, but I think if I can for this question, I think this came about a little rushed. I think there was a time commitment that needed to be made to the financial oversight committee or for binding conditions. And I think that it was rushed because of that. I will go back and ask specifically, when did we know that we had to close schools, and when did we decide to tell the public, and see what that timeline looks like. I think it is a big decision. It is a community decision, not just a district decision. I'm not even sure if there's a committee yet for the rollout plan, and I think that we need to get started. A year might seem like a long way away, 2025, 2026 school year, but it comes pretty quick. And there's there's a lot of valuable input that I've already received from the community as far as how this process should play out. And I think it needs to be captured in a committee. And so I hope that, to the best of my ability, that answers your question. Again, I do have your name down. I hope that maybe afterwards I can grab your email so that I can respond to you in that way. And I think maybe what I'll do after this, after I capture everybody's questions, is perhaps get answers to them all and post them all at once for everybody to see. And maybe Jay and Amy can help post that on the community group as well. So, thank you. I don't know if there was a second. Did you have a second question? Or was that the breath? Okay.
I also would like to know, since I have spent most of my career at Liberty, I'd like to see the cost of what it's going to cost to bus our students. I'm not a bus student every day, and we have 2 buses. We have maybe 50 kids that get on buses. We have almost 450 kids. So what's the cost going to be to bus our students to schools they can't even walk to? And the transportation is such a large factor for our community, that you're cutting kind of everything off if you bus those kids away from their neighborhood and their families. Away, yeah, I mean, they're getting themselves to school. We are a walking school, and right, it's just gonna cut so much, it takes so much away from our families. So I really would like to see them cut the cost of bus our students to schools that are just very far away.
Yeah, and that's a really good, it's a really good metric to be able to pull to present, specifically during the, whenever the committee gets started, because I think all of those factors are going to come into play. Because if we're talking about closing schools to save money, there's other factors that come out because of that inadvertently cause us to spend more money in order to accomplish those. And so I have that number right now, but I didn't write it down, so I'll make sure I am. And I don't know if the district has that number right now, but I think it's a good number for the district to figure out and see out there. Thank you.
I want to add that is something that's on the information we've been given. It's still like TBD. So I've asked that a couple times and haven't received anything. They're just working on so many other things right now. But I think the committees will start in September, is what I heard. And we haven't approved any closures as a board yet. So, and it was a time issue with OSPI. They wanted to name names, name schools. So, But I hear everything and agree with what you're saying.
Hi guys, you brought up committees. When will the public see the new committees that are like this committee to be formed, and how are you going to go about picking those people from the public to join those committees? And will there be caps on them?
Good question. I know you and I have actually talked about this quite a bit. And I think you were asking on this, and I'll definitely answer the question, but everybody else does. I think we talk about all the time how the district has a need for volunteers and every volunteer counts within the district, especially during this. And I think an opportunity that a citizen wants to take in order to contribute to the success of the schools should be taken. I personally don't think there should be a cap on a committee. I think if a committee grows the room, then we secure a place like this to have those meetings, especially on topics such as the closure of schools. I don't think that should be limited to 10 people. I think in the past, the way that committees have been formed hasn't been actively transparent. It might have been transparent, meaning you could click through several links on the website to figure out where the committees are and how to get signed up. But I think that there needs to be a more active approach in getting that information out to the community. So I don't know specifically how members can sign up, and I don't know if the school closure committee has been formed. When it is formed, I think that the district will take a practical role in getting that information out there. Again, if there's no cap, the hope is that there's no selection of committee members. So, does that answer your question?
In the past, your narrative, remember when there was going to be sports spectacle and a few got together and we filled the entire board, the hallway parking lot, name it, we filled it. It was successful, and it was something that the community rallied with. You have sports up at schedule, so a school closure, I'm sure you're going to fill. You could probably fill this whole harbor. So.
No, I mean, I think warranted. I think it's a community decision, a community impact, and so the community to be involved in that decision. So, yeah.
Come on, guys. I have a question, but I sit here.
Okay, guys hear me? My name is Serena Rose, and I'm at Totem. My son just graduated, and my daughter graduated the year before. But my question is specific to Totem, because we as staff keep hearing that Totem is going to close, but also we're hearing that programs are going to be moved to Totem. So really, it's not closing. That's just what they're telling the public. And so that, to me, is misleading, and especially to the staff that work there. We deserve to know what's happening with our building. So we've heard that DLP is going to be moved there. We've heard that district staff is going to be moved there. But really, maintenance. It's not saving money if you guys are going to have other programs and people still there. You're going to have food service. You're going to have a principal, office staff. So it's really not saving money. So that is misleading to the community also. So I just want to know do you know what is happening with Totem? Can you tell us or no?
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff is going to should get figured out through the committee. So there hasn't been any decisions on what's going to happen inside any of the school buildings yet. So I think, unfortunately, in the when there's information void, that void gets filled. I think the district needs to do a better job of filling that void. But I can tell you, that's what that committee is going to be for, is to decide how that transition happens and what those facilities are going to be utilized for to kind of say, just in the best way possible that benefits both the community and the district. I'll say none of those decisions have been made. I have heard all the same things that you've heard. But that have to come from the district.
Well, I mean, to just, if we're to both to have our kids go to MS and have our kids go to theater, and then we're told we will have jobs, it's not for our kids. We can work anywhere, but we choose to work in Marysville. You know what I mean? Either. But it just, we're already forced out what it is. So that's a big security issue. You know what I mean? Having all these other kids, and then you're going to have portables. It just doesn't seem like it's saving money. It just seems like you're going to be using the building, you know, they'll be using the building for something else. So it just, to us, it doesn't make sense. So I just want you guys to take that into consideration.
So can I add to that? You kind of have to look at it as not necessarily closing the school, but consolidation, because we do have a lot of empty classrooms. And the whole idea of using Totem for other district programs is just making good use of our properties and being fiscally responsible. And this board is very determined to not do anything that would harm kids, that wouldn't save, you know, we're going to try to make the best financial decisions, but putting kids first. And there's so many different ideas that we're looking at, and we're getting input from people already, and we want to be creative about how we go about this.
Yeah, that's understandable, but I just don't understand why we can't, for example, move 10th Street into Totem. You know what I mean? Like that would be better than moving all of our kids to 2 other schools.
That's another one that I've heard too.
Yeah, it just
the 10th Street.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea. I think all of the ideas, all of the things that you've heard have been ideas from either different community members, probably even different staff members, probably even different administrator level staff members. But right now they're just ideas. And my hope is that's what that committee is for, is to process all of those ideas and just work through those different. I think you would bring great insight as to why we probably should bring these different programs to Totem. And so I've heard all this and same things that you have. I've heard 10th Street. I think that was a good recommendation. But again, right now they're just all ideas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, sorry I'm a little loud. My name is Alex, and I think I've got 2 questions I want to address if possible. First of which is, you said you have a bunch of empty classrooms, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like they're trying to consolidate more, because my daughter is in a high cap program, and I'm seeing more and more gen ed kids get pushed into that, which takes away from her high cap time. Now, I don't think that's fair to have somebody that operates at, let's use speeds here, at 40 miles per hour does great, pushed up to a place where they're doing 50, 60 miles per hour, maybe that's getting out of hand to handle. So I'd like to know if we can address that, get kids where they need to be. Don't try to push them up and put standard gen kids into that class. You're just, I think, shorting people that need that extra oomph to keep them involved, engaged. And the other ones are stalling out because they can't handle an extra flow, or the teacher has to spend more time with them to get them up to the speed of everybody else. So if we have indeed the extra classrooms that you're saying, why don't we put more classes together for the gen ed kids? Could we do that?
As far as the extra classrooms, 2 to 3 years ago, we had roughly 10,000 students, and now we're approaching 9,000 students. So an absence of almost 1,000 students. That's going to leave classrooms. even if every classroom was filled to the brim before, there's going to be empty classrooms. So as far as shoving gen ed students into high cap classes, I know that that's been a huge concern and over the past few months. And I don't know if, and that's something that I can look into. I try to look into it every time questions are asked. Unfortunately, or fortunately, every time I ask a question, I'm not sure that any self-contained high cap class is self-contained.
See, and I hear the same thing, but I also hear something from my kids going, or from my daughter, that we have new kids in the class all of a sudden. So I want her to be involved and engaged. I just can't see this working. So that was one part I'd like to maybe go further talking later about that. But the other question I had regarding the property law with the city. I honestly, with the school closure possible coming up this year, I honestly think we should address that. I think that's something that we should maybe think about. If we're going to go to school, we've got our own property. And if we really want to move, then let's make a place for us and then sell a property, use the money, because what can you do with $8.6 million? I'm sorry, but it should be a lot. I guess I can ask my question here. The reason I'm looking schools is the proposed property exchange still the best in for the taxpayers, city and school district. School district property greater than $8.6 million can be sold. District staff can be to one of those schools at lower cost. The city can sell its prime commercial property on sale for profit without spending on improvements for the district's move. The district sale proceeds could fund improvements for other schools. Are you, Mayor, and the school board currently having any discussions about this? And if not, why not?
Start from the school district perspective. So I think that the deal was a good one that benefit taxpayers across the board. You bring a good point. We did the deal for school closure. You know, I guess my thought, again, I don't know what's going on in the district, but if you're truly going to close a school, again, I'm speaking without the knowledge, so you can correct this. It seems to me it would make more financial sense to sell off that property, the deal you got with the city, and move to a smaller, administrative headquarters, and the cash the city giving you on top of that, and pump in the existing school improvements, the district plan, that's roofs and HVACs and whatever it is. And I think you come out net, you come out in a better net financial position by doing that, as opposed to keeping the large scale. Totem's a good example. I'm not suggesting you close schools. I'm saying if this is going to happen, if you sold off all of that Totem property, and it seems to be you could be in a lot better off net financially. Move the district headquarters to the old city hall, and the city hall, which is public works yard, to the existing district headquarters, and then there's still that cash on top of that. But again, I'm just coming at this off the top of my head. This was all put together before this type of a conversation happened. And it made tremendous financial sense, I think, for the district at that time. The district was getting rid of a piece of property that was older, it was very expensive to maintain, and was not used that much. I mean, I went on a tour with you through it, and I think you might have been using 20% of the facility. And that's not your fault, it's just the reality. So the city's able to fill that facility up and full with its public works yard, save the taxpayers the tens of millions it would cost to build a new public works yard, get the district into a smaller facility and come out with the cash on top of that. And so that's the way the deal was. It was a win-win for everybody. Has that changed now with this? I don't know. I mean, it seems to me though it'd make more sense to sell off the entire school property if that even goes through. I don't know where you guys are even at with that though. If you've done any type of analysis on what you could sell those properties for, if there's no ability to sell that because of some of these other plans you're talking about. I'm not privy to that information.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would echo you, John, when you said we came into this that partnership before the idea of closing schools, and it really was a tremendous benefit to the district, and I think even to the city. I think the district would have netted almost $2 million out of the deal, if I remember correctly. There's more people who have a better understanding of the transactional piece and the numbers behind it than I do. I also want to be, I think the district also wants to be a good partner with the city. And so I think that decision really needs to have some more conversation around it. And I think that conversation also needs to involve the city, because I think the deal has already been made, and we be respectful of that. But again, I think that's a good conversation to have to talk about. And this is why this thing needs to start, I think, rather than later. And I think, if anything, that's the one thing that I'll take back to the district is the desire to get the ball rolling on that conversation, of closing schools.
I guess I'll piggyback on that. Is the deal done between the city and the school district? Is it signed and over with, and
Well,
it's in
yeah.
process?
Yeah, it is approved by the school board, approved by the city council. We hired a protection firm, we're paying them up. So the party, the is in motion, but I still think it makes a lot of financial sense. Again, I don't have all the numbers from the district, but as a person on there, I know our finances, I know this, but I think it still does make a lot of sense financially for the district. You're unloading a piece of property for a public works yard by the city that's needed to put anything in cameras. Unloading a pretty expensive facility to maintain for the district and admin office for a newer facility that we're going to fit up, so it doesn't need to be maintained, or at least it won't have to be project up there. You're netting $2 million on top of that. So that's a really good financial. I can tell you when we put the deal together, when we specifically sat down and thought this has to be a deal that benefits the district as well. But as a city, if you're going to deal in the private sector, their problem to figure out if it works for them or not. But these are all public entities, so we're deeply concerned that the deal makes a lot of sense for the district. So we didn't do a lot of things that we maybe ordinarily do in a different type of negotiation, because it's had to cancel out for the district to make sense. So I still think it's a good deal.
I'm over here. Good question.
So maybe it's not a big question, it's a comment about HiCap. So I'm at Liberty and we have a HiCap program there. And this is just my observation, and having been there, is that I think pre-COVID, there was some really big inequities. Like you would have maybe a second grade HiCap class that would have like 10 kids in it. And then all your regular second grade classes might have like 25 kids in a classroom. So you had really, inequitable classes and inequitable workloads. I know at Liberty, they've been doing a really proactive to identify kids that are in HiCap to get those classes a little more equal to a regular classroom. And at Liberty, we have separate HiCap classes, but now have come up in numbers because they've been proactive. And so it sounds like maybe you're at Pinewood, and that's very different, but I think it kind of became very inequitable, and so I think they were trying to balance, and that's, at Liberty, it's been very proactive to identify kids to have them in their program, so the classes are more, you don't have a class of 10 and then a class of 25 with like a regular classroom. That's my comment about what's happened at Liberty, right or wrong, that's what I've observed, yeah.
I'm a teacher at Pinewood. It's a very different dynamic than what you understand. So we gave them an alternative plan where they could have addressed fixing the issue with me adjusting HiCap classes, and the district chose not to. So
This sounds very, I put that on here.
yeah, so no, this was a district choice
Yeah.
that should have been handled differently.
Karen?
Thank
No.
All right. All right. First, I'm going to do a couple of the online questions that are coming up. And one thing that I did want to address really quickly with high caps, I think we're talking about a couple different things. The concern that was brought up by the gentleman on high cap is the average score of the cognitive testing that was accepted into the new high cap kids next year, accepted all kids with an average IQ and above into the high cap program. So that's the question you're addressing directly. And that was the concern that came up there. But to address the questions online, there was a question from Jennifer Phillips. She said, I would love to know when the communication and transparency will happen with the district. Is there a plan? You've heard nearly everyone you've come across say something in regards to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty general question. I would say communication transparency is important to me. I know that there have been things that that I have pushed for on a personal level as far as getting communication out as quickly as possible, specifically around our dealings with OSPI and the Financial Oversight Committee. You know, I think recently we've been doing a better job. We can always improve. I don't think there's a plan of improving our communications. All I can say is I have been a strong advocate to the district to if there's important information, we need to get it out as soon as possible and as descriptive as possible. But as far as a plan goes, I think my plan is just to continue to advocate for that and call it out when I see that we might be slipping. But yeah, I don't know how else to answer that. Was that it?
Hi there, my name is Becky Roberts. I'm the NE president, and I have a few questions. So if somebody needs to interrupt me, please feel free. So my first is I want to go back to the high cap and just kind of set the record straight here, and to talk about the fact that Zach at a school board meeting said out loud to the crowd that he has directed Brandon Moeller to make sure all those classes are self-contained. He said that at a school board meeting. And one of the ways they can do that, and they've done that, I don't know for how long, but they have splits, right? So you don't have a class of second graders of 10. So they do have splits. But behind the scenes, I also talk with Brandon Moeller, and I talk with Lori Knudsen, who is in charge of elementary ed. And what they tell me is, we're gonna try not to put gen ed kids in high cap classes. So he either gave them that directive and they're not going to do it, or they're not, right? So that kind of needs to be clarified.
Yeah, I think that was probably the same board meeting where I asked for that assurance more times than Peter denied Jesus, I think.
Right. But he's not the one in the trenches, right? He's not the one making those day-to-day decisions. It's the people under him.
Right.
So I have a concern about that.
Yeah, and I wrote that down, and I'll keep asking the question. Unfortunately, I think the superintendent is more in the trenches than the school board, and so when people come forward and sends us emails and pulls our ear, that's very helpful for us because the amount of information that the school board gets is limited to a certain degree, and so I personally rely on coffee conversations with folks who are in the audience right now to get some of the information that I get. So.
My next thing is about transparency and communication. I think that that means something different to the district than it does to the rest of us. They put out messaging, but the messaging isn't always truthful. And so they think they're being transparent, but they're not, because they're not truthful. I mean, if they put stuff out, it needs to be truthful. That's the bottom line. Otherwise, you're not being transparent. My next thing is, we have a very strong concern about the investigation into Dr. Robbins, and it would be our preference if he went out on administrative leave during this time. I know that that's your decision to make, I get that, but I just want you to know that that is our preference, is that he goes out on administrative leave while that's happening. And then my final thing is, I swear I'm not trying to disparage people, but I have a major concern around the special ed executive director position. So we know that Michelle Roper left, Jennifer Modecker left, and I have not heard this from anybody officially, but we have heard that Courtney Hill is going to be taking that position. And I also know that this isn't under your purview to, hire and fire all the directors. But I can tell you that although she is a lovely woman, she is very nice, she does not do the job that she has right now. The MLL numbers she's in charge of are totally messed up. She does not do the equity part of her job. And with all the findings that we had last year in special education, I would think that you would want to put somebody in that position who is extremely competent, especially since the other thing I've heard is that maybe you're not going to replace all the directors, which I think is a great idea. It's like, let's just do special ed. We don't have to do elementary and secondary special ed, it's just special ed. But that person needs to be competent in that position. And we have a very strong opinion that she will not be. I'm sorry.
Is this, I'm sure you have, but I'll just ask a question. Have you read your opinions to Rob?
I have not. To be quite honest, I have talked to him about every member of his cabinet and some of the things that you or do not do. And quite frankly, I get the idea that he won't care. And that's just the idea I get. I'm happy to reach out though, and I probably should, so I will absolutely do that.
Yeah, I don't bring your concerns to Dr. Jones, but I was just wondering if you had that conversation with him as well. I think a lot of the times when there's a concern out there, I think it makes a bigger impact when more than a few people bring that concern. But you're right, it's not, our responsibility as far as hiring goes is just the superintendent.
But I also wanted you to know, kind of what the feeling was.
No, yeah, and I appreciate it.
I thought the special ed director position they were in the process. I haven't heard that it's going to be Courtney Hill.
Yeah, I heard it on pretty good authority that it's going to be Courtney Hill.
I have not heard that.
Me too.
It's still obviously it's a concern, so we'll bring that concern to Dr. Robbins.
My question, I'm Christy Talfest. I'm a paraprofessional at Liberty Elementary and 10-month SCIU president. And my question is about conversations that any of you have had with senators or any of our legislature down in Olympia about the situation we're in and what needs to change. there's some things that need to change in the funding of public schools. And as I'm having conversations, because I'm like, something is wrong and I want to figure out what it is. Besides the fact that a lot of people don't know that bonds are for building schools and that that's something we need to do as a community, I'm wondering what kind of conversations have you had with folks that can make a difference and help us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was slightly talking to Chris about this right before we started, but we've brought state senators and representatives to the district to talk about that exact thing. We talked about the hurdle that Marysville has had, that the majority of school districts have had with the bond issue, the 60%. I mean, the levy that we passed at 58%. We were right there. Could you imagine if a bond measure only needed 50% plus one? We have since the district has been in binding conditions and working through what that entails. We have not had any conversations with legislators and House reps because I think right now we're trying to get ahead of what's in front of us, and I think the impact, although it's important to talk to those folks, the impact that that's going to have is an impact that's going to happen in the greater future. And as a district, I think we're focused on the now and working together with the community to try to steer our ship in the right direction. But it is something that we have done recently this past school year we brought state representatives to our district to talk about that exact thing. And they saw our schools. And I think that is something that is absolutely important to do in the future. And I know that there's even some community members who would be excited to join the district and going to Olympia and talking to folks specifically about our situation. I think in most cases, Marysville would like to be number one and the first district to achieve something, but I don't think we would like to be the first district to achieve financial oversight committee. And although all the blame isn't to be passed on to the state, I think a lot of it is in the way that they fund our schools. And I think that's only highlighted when a school goes through a double levy failure. And I know that some community members might be frustrated every time we bring up double levy failure, but in reality, not many school districts in Washington go through double levy failures. And to the point where we're talking with the financial oversight committee a couple days ago. One of the subjects was drafting a book for school districts who might experience double levy failure because with the state schools with not fully and a levy is supposed to kind of build up when you're asking for a levy, it really shows how inadequately the state funds schools. Something that's important to us to get in front of legislators. And I think, unfortunately, I think Marysville is a case study for what an inadequate state funding model looks like and damage that it can do at a school to students in school.
We've got another online question.
This one got me for Mayor.
I have a personal question that I can address. I want to know about the communication that happened between the Marysville government and the school district. Like, how does that work as far as, because we all impact each other, right? The poor functioning of the schools unfortunately brings down our property values and affects a lot of things in that respect. How does the school district and the city communicate?
You guys are breathing on this one if you want. So we have, Dr. Robbins and I have a standing monthly meeting on the calendar where we meet. And then we have a more formal, what's called our City Government Affairs Committee, which consists of 3 city council members, myself, and some other city staff, and then consists of, I think, 2 board members, Dr. Robbins and a couple other district staff. So that's a meeting of about 10, 11, 12 folks that is on a more formal basis, and that's generally a quarterly meeting. And so those are the two ongoing formal meetings where we get together. And, from the city standpoint, again, we don't have governing authority, but we're pretty frank, I think, in sharing our ideas and what we hear from the community, what we think maybe ought to be a response, not having all the information that the district has, of course, but the council members and myself, we hear a lot from the community. We're pretty frank in passing that on and asking that, that be addressed from that standpoint. The district offers great feedback as well from a district standpoint on what's going on. And those are, especially over the last year or so, been pretty intense meetings from time to time, and meetings that, have really discussed a lot of the issues that I think you guys are talking about. And then there's, of course, the informal stuff. For instance, if I hear something from a community member, I'll often call the administration building and say, hey, look, this is what I'm hearing. Can somebody get back to this person? It could be an individual situation with somebody's own child, or it could be a situation on some of the things you're talking about tonight. So I won't wait for the next meeting. If I hear that, I'll pass that along and ask them to get back to the person, because maybe I don't have the answer, right? And so there's a lot of that goes on. And then, of course, there's staff-to-staff communication on things. For instance, our police department, where we help fund school resource officers in the schools, so there's staff-to-staff communication there. Our parks department, where we do a lot of facility sharing and facility maintenance and things like that. So I see it's a pretty significant amount of communication when you go from staff level up through elected level, on a monthly basis. And that's just the formal stuff, and then there's informal as well. I don't know if that captured it all from your standpoint.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I will say that from personally, anytime I've tried to reach out to the mayor or any of the city staff that may be of assistance, I have not had a difficult time in getting in touch with who I've needed to get in touch with. So, but there are regular formal meetings, and then there's the numerous informal meetings. So,
Could I say one other thing? Yeah, and Connor has reached out before. We've gotten together and just chatted, and I think that's great. I appreciate that he values the opinion of the city. From the city standpoint, while we don't have governing authority, this is the elephant in the room in our community, and you cannot have a strong, thriving community without a strong, thriving school district. We're fully aware of that, and that's obvious by what's happening here today. It's obvious by the fact that the vast majority of our new housing development is going up in the Lake Stevens School District part of the city and the Lakewood School District part of the city. So the people are telling you what parts of the city they want to live in based on that. And so we realize that as a city, we see those stats. And so, I try to never turn down an opportunity when I'm invited. In other words, if I'm invited into a school by a teacher, by administration, unless I have something else that I just can't get out of, I go. And I've been in schools on a number of occasions just the last year. And I appreciate those invites. Events like tonight, if I can make it happen, I'll go, even if I don't necessarily have a governing authority or can't necessarily offer a tremendous amount of moral support and the ability to get into the schools and talk to our kids and our teachers and parents and whatnot is really, really critical, because I know how difficult the time it is right now. So there's some of the things too where I think is city leadership, whether it's the police chief or myself or others, we can get in and do reading programs, reading nights to kids. We can go and meet with teachers, with Dr. Robbins, we're invited in and that kind of thing. Learn a little bit more about what's going on.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? So when you have questions that come to you and you direct them to the district and ask them to reach out, the district responds. Do you get feedback that the district has actually responded? I will say I've reached out to the school board, and most of the school board members have been pretty good in responding. I've never got a response from Dr. Robbins.
Typically when I the response is, yes, we will be in contact with your services, so and so. I don't get detailed what the feedback was or what transpired after that. Just that we will commit to getting back and dealing with the information you brought forward.
All right, I ask an online question now. Member Phillips is asking, who's overseeing risk management since Claude Rushing is on administrative leave? Is there an investigation into this issue? And when will she be
The second part of that is also, is the district paying extra for outside counsel while she's on administrative leave?
So, our HR is handling risk management. I'm not going to speak to personnel matters, specifically this claim that's going on. So I won't speak to the audit thing. Yes, the district is paying for outside counsel for specific claims that really truly need to be, even if I think Claudette wasn't believed, it needs to be handled in an isolated manner. So I wouldn't say we're utilizing outside counsel because our in-house counsel is on leave. I would say we're utilizing this outside counsel because of the nature of the investigation and the claim. We truly want to keep isolated from the district. So that answers Jennifer's question.
All right, next question over here.
Wow, that was good. Please. Help level there. I'm gonna pick on the mayor because I honestly don't that for the thing. With every problem one, like is there official stance? I know the Salem tribes are very much in opposition to this.
Yeah, the city, we haven't taken an official stance. That would be more of a council action. So if there's no stance whatsoever, there are concerns. I think I'll share with you my personal opinion. I mean, I'm concerned with the chairwoman brought up. Was it her state of the tribes? And, those are legitimate concerns. I don't know all the details of them, but if they're concerned, that makes me concerned. And so, I think everybody should really study the issue closely and determine, is the tax that you would be paying for that worth, what the court would offer to a city like Marysville, and make that decision for yourself.
And then a follow-up on that. I know the riverfronts, there's been talks cleaning that up, building like a little, well, maybe it's just in my head, but like a little boardwalk area with like housing and diners and, livable, shoppable area. I know that's a long time in the future, but would the Port of Everett proposition impact Marysville?
Well, not a lot. I think what they would tell you, and I don't want to answer for them, I think what they would tell you is they may be able to access different waterfront type federal grants, or grants in general, that maybe as a city we could. I don't know that that's true or not, but that's, I think, what they would say is, hey, when that time comes, we have access to additional grants that you as a city jurisdiction don't. And that may very well be true. That might be true. We've gotten a lot of grants on our waterfront brownfield grants to clean it up and stuff, so I think we get our share of grants too, but they indeed might be able to bring to the table additional grants. Yeah, thank you.
I do want to just touch on that question from Jennifer. So we are utilizing outside counsel, but I think it's important to note that all of those outside counsels that we're using are paid for by the risk pool. So we're not paying any extra money for the outside counsel that we're using. So I think that's an important thing that I missed to say. So thanks.
I got one down here in front.
You can't get away without hearing from me. Nancy Harvey. I tend to be an optimistic person, not a Pollyanna, but optimistic in general. But I'm feeling a little discouraged the last week about Totem Middle School. And the reason is that it seems that somebody has made a decision to promote and grow the 10th Street Middle School, even to the point where now they're going to need some portables this year. And there's a plan to grow 10th Street even more the following year, which would mean, again, additional portables. When you're growing 10th Street School, you're pulling students from Totem, from Marysville Middle, and some even from Cedar Crest. So while I'm happy that there's going to be take totem students and totem teachers and gather them, and the property will be used for something else. That doesn't seem open. I hate the word transparency because it's thrown out for a lot. But when the decision's already been made, what's the point in having it?
I guess all I can say is the decision that's been made is only as good as the person who made the decision. I think that a decision like that would be coming to the board for approval. And so, as a board member, I can say that we haven't approved that. I think if somebody else is suggesting that, then I just really can't speak to it from here. Because it's not for 10th Street, so I'll just talk about 10th Street and the growth of 10th Street. I think if there's a desire from parents and students to attend 10th Street, then I think that the district should grow 10th Street. Whether 10th Street is going to be housed in Totem, I'm not sure. I don't know, because the board hasn't made that decision. Again, I just kind of put that, for me personally, I put that in a rumor box. So I'm sorry that I couldn't answer your question there, but I don't have any other information to be able to answer that question.
It's me again, Alex, of course. A few times it was mentioned that our superintendent isn't great about responding to things. Also, looking back at a trend over the last 6 months, I've seen a few people get, well, put on leave because of pending investigations. And may just be me, but I tend to see that investigations when people start getting put on leave and then leaving the district, and no more are put on leave, that is usually an indication of something higher up. Has the board considered putting other people on leave, like the superintendent, and get an idea from up above, unhindered by any opinions you have?
I'll tell you, that's not the first time that we've heard of that idea. And the board is really adamant in this matter to heed the advice from our outside counsel, who is an independent party. And that advice so far, the investigation only started a week ago. That advice so far has been to not put Dr. Robbins on leave. And so through the course of this investigation, the board we're threading a fine needle, and we want to do what's right for the district. We want to do what's right for the community. Sometimes there's overlap, sometimes there's not. But in this matter, I think to the board, it's important to just follow the advice of our outside counsel. Thank you.
And on the point of communication, just to let everyone know, Dr. Robbins was invited. Initially, Jay sent an email to everybody inviting. I followed up with a second email, and I actually followed up with a personal third email and included Jane on it, and no response.
So this is my I finished my first year here as a teacher in Marysville. To be honest, I had no issues with this district. I probably wouldn't have accepted the job. But I'm here and I would love to stay. I have 12 years of experience in lots of different districts, and talked to lots of people who've been here many years. And I keep hearing, hey, we have all these issues because of money and a double levy failure. But I think those things are just exposing a lot of pre-existing issues. All these different rumors fundamentally, or this is happening, that is happening, fundamentally are an issue of lack of transparency. People don't trust the district doesn't communicate. So my question is, you know, I have no idea as a teacher, what actually districts plan? What do they have to do? What is their goal? If you actually want money from people in the district, the taxpayers, what would you actually do with it? Your newest high school is falling apart if you don't maintain it. That is because of lack of money. That's a decision the board has made on.
Our plan for what specifically, just overall.
Yeah, what is your goal? Not just words, something you actually put into action. This is decades old.
Yeah. What I didn't catch your name. Mark. So I can tell you personally, I'd say personally, and then I think I can tell you is an board district. I think the definition of public school is to equip students with tools they need in order to be successful, free and independent of any other government aid after they leave our schools. I think in order to do that on an academic level, I think that the district, I don't think that it's a secret that Marysville has some of the lowest test scores in the state. So on an academic level, we have to raise our test scores. We have to raise, whether that's through curriculum, or whether that's through PD, or whether that's through just understanding where our students are at this point in time, when things are moving so fast because of technology. Are we moving as fast as technology? I'm hoping that on a financial level, I'm hoping that I consider OSPI and the work that they're doing as a benefit to the district. I don't see OSPI as the enemy. I think that through the work that the financial oversight, in collaboration with the district, I think the work that they're going to do, the things that they're going to, the decades-old practices that are going to be uncovered. I think that's going to be a net benefit to the district. I think the sooner that financially the district can open up its kimono, the better. I think when things trickle out, that's when it becomes hard to get yourself out of the situation that you're in. So my overall goal personally would be financial stability, academic success for our students, and an environment where there is a mentality for collaboration between all parties involved in a school district, the community, the staff, the city, and the administrators, the students, the parents. If we can get to a place where we can be constructively collaborative, then I think that we can achieve that goal. Actually, I think that the district, in conjunction with the community, I think that there's a lot of positive momentum happening right now, although it's painful. I think that there's a lot of good conversations that are happening. I know that I have personally sat down for a coffee with individuals, whether they're staff members or community members, on a level that's plus 400% than what I was doing just 2 months ago. So there's a burning desire within the community, within staff members, within myself personally, to come together and get through the situation that we're in. And I think ultimately, once that happens, it's going to be a net benefit to the district. And I think we're only going to go up from there. Yeah, and quite honestly, I know I was speaking for myself, but I think the whole board has that same vision, and I think that we just had interviews to fill our vacant seat, and I think every single candidate that we interviewed was a reflection of where the community's at, because they're bringing the community with them and the community's concerns with them in those interviews. And I saw a lot of the same desire to be collaborative and to work ourselves out of this situation as a team and as a community. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
That one right over here.
I was wondering, I heard somebody went to Pinewood. Was that Ms. Hoiby? Was that you who went to Pinewood and visited this last year? I know that there were 2 board members who went to Pinewood.
We went, Connor and I went.
You did, okay. And I understand that there were some things that you saw and were concerned about. I've been listening and I keep hearing that we're gonna put students first and that we want high test scores. I'm gonna be honest. Might not be popular, but I'm gonna be honest. I know why you don't have higher test scores. And it's quite frankly that our teachers can't teach in the classrooms. We don't have vice principals anymore. And we don't have vice principals. And the state did pass a law that talked about not only kids out of the room, but when you have kindergarten rooms with 3 or 4 children who constantly disrupt, and the teacher can't get through the lesson, and you have first grade rooms with 3 or 4 kids who disrupt. I have to, disruption is throwing a shelf with all the little tabs on it and all the toys. I put myself between some kids and the rest of the kids who are running. I'm scared, frankly. I go down the hall and there's a little girl screaming for 20 minutes because she didn't get to sit in the teacher's chair and twirl. And then they finally take the whole class aside, and I'm like standing there waiting for somebody else to come and help with the child. We have over and over again 5th graders who are completely vile in their speech and say every single verbal word. This is true with the middle schools also. Staff is being worn out, and it's not exaggeration when I say all 3 of our kindergartners had people like that, and all of our first grades had kids like that. You could totally tear apart that room. And we have one principal running up and down the hall trying to get to the next kid who's going to do something. The sped time is closed. They're just like, you have sped services, you got in to the line to get tested first. You cannot have any sped services. Your child, it doesn't matter. We don't have money for it. The state funds it, 18%. So they're actually denying kids those services, but it's the behaviors. I don't know if people who are working in the district right now, I talk to a lot of the professionals, and that's where I represent bus drivers. Our bus drivers cannot drive down the road without kids swearing and throwing things in the back of their heads. Taking steering wheels, yeah. We're not joking. The middle school, when you go in there for lunch, they've got volunteers in there, and then they're like throwing stuff at the custodian. They finally get one of the principals in there, and he kind of makes a little bit of a difference. But literally, 3rd grade classrooms where I work, they are taking out 9 kids at a time and trying to do the instruction with 9 kids because they can't do a whole group instruction. All of those children have enough problems that they cannot. And I think we're just not addressing it. When I say something like, and I talked to Dr. Robbins about it, he said, well, have you talked to your principal? And my principal serves at his discretion. Our principals can't go and say, look, we can't keep doing this. And if they do, they're gonna be out real quick. And I'm just wondering if kids are first, are there gonna be people, greeting the high schoolers when they come off the bus instead of leaving them for 10 or 15 minutes when they get off the bus in the morning? Are there gonna be people this next year out in front of the schools, like to greet them and keep the kids safe? Are there gonna be people in the lunchroom that aren't volunteers? So if your child needs a Heimlich, they get it from somebody who's trained. I don't know. I see this problem as huge. We voted no confidence in Dr. Robbins and the board of directors for Marysville School District. And that is why we are working so hard, and our kids, there's so many who want to do well, but there's enough that don't, and that don't care, and their parents do not care. That how do we, I see, like, I don't know how much sway you have. Like, I know that you have to listen to Dr. Robbins a lot, but I'm wondering what in the world can be done that we are not in this fight every single day. Can you really put kids first? I don't know. I'm concerned that it won't happen.
There's a lot there. Write it down. No, you're fine. Were there problems? Is this a post-COVID thing with students?
I could go through 40 or so kids a day. Sometimes I stay for 10 minutes, sometimes I stay for half an hour. I feel like it has to do more with the kids' needs, the behaviors, the parents who don't want to parent, drug use, the alcohol, and what the city can do along these lines. I'm just seeing our kids, our families struggle and more struggle. And so this isn't just a post-COVID, although you're post-COVID solution. It's all it's trauma. It's our community that right now to the creamery and said, this creamery is a great place. This creamery is a great place because it's a great community business. People can come here. They have all these junior high kids walking down the street to plug in their little fake pens and stuff. They take handfuls of ice cream, just put it in their hands, grab handfuls of crap, all the candy out of the thing, and walk out. They've even taken stuff off the wall. And I told them, until you change that law that says we can't remove kids who are disruptive in the classrooms, you're going to have a community like this. And that's just one example of our community, the things we're dealing with. And I am so frustrated. My daughter graduated 12 years ago. My youngest, all three of them went through Marysville. And we could actually talk to people like Lumber. We could talk. We had conversations with our past superintendents where we actually saw things improve, things got done, things changed. And now I gotta be honest, I don't know when the last time we saw anybody in our buildings. It's like, we don't care, we don't want to look at you, we don't want to know what's going on. But then they say things about test scores, and Chris Reichdahl said to me, well, we don't care so much about test scores now. I said, what? I'm like, if you can't have it both ways. You can't have good test scores and children who are completely out of control in every classroom that we have.
I heard you say something about that you said sped time is closed. I think and you alluded to the state paying for 18%.
Yeah.
So I think the state's at 15%. I think we're at 18% or
We're
19%. Yeah.
I think they are.
It was 13, but I think this last year they
It went
changed
up.
it to 15.
We went down, the SEIU went down a couple times. It's at
Yeah.
18%. And Chris said that after the whole, the state doesn't fund education lawsuit, they're 82% as far as funding education. But I'm seeing that, but I'm also seeing this apathy, and it's somebody else's problem. And we don't have enough money, we're not gonna give you this and that. And these kids that we work with whose parents don't have a car, I mean, they're not coming to school. If Liberty kids are moved somewhere else, like, we probably have 50 or so that walk in the door late because their parents on their own. Yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm just concerned. It's like, we talk about the kids that they can't even learn to take the test because it's so loud and obnoxious in their classrooms. Scared. Yeah, a bunch of them are scared.
So I just want to say that Christy is speaking from a different school than we're from Pinewood. Very similar, exact same dynamic. The big concern is that cuts are being made at school levels rather than administrative levels in the district office. So it is very frustrating to hear kids first, but where the cuts need to be made is not in the schools. We don't have the staffing to support our kids. And I know you both know that because you had to come cover recess at Pinewood because we didn't have the staff to cover our recess. And I literally had to email the school board and ask someone to come cover our recess because we didn't have a single staff member there to cover our recess. And I couldn't get anybody in the district office to even answer the phone or return my phone calls. The entire school year, I think Dr. Robbins darkened the door of Pinewood one time because one teacher personally invited him to come to our school. We do not have administrators that ever come to the building, even when we don't have classroom coverage for teachers who are absent. They pull staff from other services, such as our ML teacher, to cover classrooms when there's not coverage. Or they split up the classrooms and make other teachers take half of another class for coverage. So we can't continue to have the mantra that kids are first, because if kids were first, they wouldn't continue to make the cuts in the schools. They would be making them at the district office. And there's no cuts. They've added positions. They've added assistants for administrators that don't need assistants. And as far as I'm concerned, they can work extra hours. I don't really care if they think they need an assistant. We all put in a lot of extra time because we have to. It is completely true. We get our classrooms torn apart. We're evacuating classrooms because we don't have the coverage or the support. We don't have assistant principals or part-time assistant principals. We have no extra support. We have volunteers in the lunchroom who are not even trained to be able to give first aid should a student choke. It was so loud in the lunchroom this year that we had a staff member who couldn't even figure out where a student was choking, and she ended up deciding to take a position at the district office because she was tired of the stress of trying to find where the kids were that were choking and having an issue. There's no response. It is absurd. We have no communication with the superintendent. We could go to past superintendents and have conversations and express problems and get answers and have someone who would talk to you and be willing to help and try and problem solve. So it's a good soundbite, but it doesn't happen. So, and I'm not saying it's you guys, but what's the vision from the superintendent? Because I don't feel like there is a vision for the superintendent of leading the school district.
Debbie Garrett? There's an online question, I'm sorry, I want to interrupt really quick. Amy Lynn is asking online, everyone talks about declining school enrollment as a source of financial troubles, but has anyone compared school enrollment with city growth? Do they match, or is there an obvious problem with people pulling kids out of MSD or choosing not to enroll here? I know several people that moved to Marysville and chose to drive their kids to out-of-district schools instead. Also, how many have pulled their kids because of the problems we've had? And there's a second part of the question, I just want to get it all out there. The other part of her question was, how are we as parents of MSD students to trust the outcome of an investigation into our superintendent if he's present to alter the truth or intimidate other employees?
So I'll speak to the declining enrollment. Maybe John can speak to the growth of the city. I think whether a kid gets pulled by their parents to go to a different school, or a family moves out of Marysville, it's still declining enrollment. We lose that kid. So I don't know if, I'm not sure what the ratio is of people who are moving away from the city versus our declining enrollment. But it still impacts the district regardless of why that student left. And could you just read that second question out to me again?
The second part of the question was, how are we, parents of MSD students, to trust the outcome of an investigation into our superintendent if he's present to alter the truth or intimidate other employees?
Yeah, I can tell you that the investigation that's taken place has started and is being conducted in a way that is as isolated from the district as possible. Myself, so I'm the point of contact for the investigation. So the district itself isn't even the point of contact for this. So we're doing what we can as much as we can, while also heeding the advice of our outside legal counsel in this matter, to keep this investigation as isolated as possible and as free from bias as possible. We went into this investigation with a purpose of starting off the investigation with no bias. And so I hope that at least by doing that, the community can trust that the investigation is being conducted in a fair manner, all parties.
The city is growing year over year, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Say a little bit earlier, a large portion of that growth is coming in the southeast part of the city, which within city limits part of the Stevens School District, the north part of the city, which again is city limits, but it's part of the Lakeland School District. So, we would obviously like to see more people want to move to the area that's part of the Marysville School District as well. And I think if I could take a side note, just to be a chance, sometimes we get asked about school mitigation fees. This is a good example of why you don't see school mitigation fees. The school district will provide, all three of the school districts provide the city's recommendation on school mitigation fees. And I've never seen the city council not adopt the school recommendation, but by law, there has to be a nexus between need and what they present to the council in the next behind that. So if you're going as a district and you show that you need portables and things of that nature, they put, be able to make that calculation, they'll stick leave, come to the city council and we'll just pass it through because they're not experts in numbers. If you're not able to show that, typically the district areas or for a number of years will come forward with no increase because they don't want to, but because they can't get access to the district growth. And even if you do the years where the district was growing and would bring forward that, the council would pass it through. A lot of people think, well, can we build new schools with that? Making sure that this housing growth is for new schools. Unfortunately, these schools and agencies cannot be used for new schools. I don't like that more than you, but that's the reality. Those things like portables and things of that nature. So that's a side comment. It's just an opportunity to explain some of the same frustrations we feel around that area, but that's why that takes place in the way that it does.
In order to reach financial stability, we need to address the declining enrollment. The only way to address that is to restore confidence in our schools. What are we doing to restore confidence when our community is looking at an ineffective leader and in people's eyes, nothing has been done to change that? We've got a lack of staffing because we are unable to draw staffing in our buildings, which leads to the lack of support. And as Christy said, classrooms that are out of control every single day. It just seems like we keep saying we need to reach financial stability and we're conducting an investigation, but the community is continuing to react by saying we're going to pull our kids out because we're not seeing anything positive happening.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the confidence and the lack of financial stability for the district, I'll say from the district standpoint, with this financial oversight committee, we're uncovering definitely some, and we have a board meeting on the 5th of August, where the financial oversight committee is going to be at, and we're uncovering some past bad practices with finances, and all of that's going to come out on the 5th, which I guess I'll go ahead and just plug that meeting. On the 5th at 4:30, we're going to have a work study with the financial oversight committee. During that meeting, we're also going to open up the floor for public hearing for 30 minutes during that time, from 5:15 to 5:45, I believe. And then we're also going to have the public hearing during the regular session for the community to bring their concerns to the financial oversight committee. During that work study and the regular session both, I think the financial oversight committee is going to present their findings. And so I think I think that's going to be an important meeting to attend. But again, we're uncovering some bad past practices, and I think in doing that, I think we're going to develop some stronger practices when it comes to our finances, and the district definitely has a part in that. I also want to say that the way that the state funds the schools definitely has a part in our financial stability. And even though this is unpopular to say in front of a bunch of community members, a double levy failure definitely plays a part in financial stability. And so the district, I can tell you from the board point of view or perspective, we're going to do what we can to make sure that the district corrects its bad practices. We would hope that the community would also play a part in passing future levies, which unfortunately, even though levies are supposed to be a tool that the district use to do excellent things for our students, unfortunately, the districts in Washington have used levy funds to supplement what the state is funding us to need. It's not a desire, or levy is not a desire from the school district anymore, it's need. And without those funds, it's hard to have the appropriate number of parents to watch students. It's hard to have the appropriate number of staff members in lunchrooms. It's hard to maybe have an extra staff member bus to keep students from grabbing steering wheel. Those things are hard to Again, to speak on behalf of the board, I think we're doing what we can to ensure that we correct bad practices. Hope that the state do what they need to do in order to full fund schools. We hope the community can get out to vote the levy. Again, it's a need, and it's not a nice to have anymore in a school district. It's a need to have. So.
My concern is rebuilding that relationship for how do we with everything's happening right now, unresolved issues and community discussion. How do we build our community and ask for money in school?
Yeah, I hope that events like this help. I hope that district leaders attend events like this help build trust in the community and confidence in the community. You could have full chair there. Well, I can only speak for myself, right? I can't speak for anybody else. I can say that.
No. Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, I got a couple originally that I get to you because you're sitting there. But all the talk of volunteers and community engagement, does the district have an official plan to like build out a volunteer recruitment training process? It's far more easy having anyone in a lunchroom that doesn't know the Heimlich is concerning. So like having that base training for any parents that go to the district to sign up to volunteer at schools. And honestly, a lot of the people, the feedback that I'm getting from community members that have tried to go, they hear the terrible stories coming out of like mostly the middle schools at this point. But they'll go in there for like a lunch cycle and then it's like, I don't know what to do. Nobody knows what's going on. That will be like a great area to focus on community engagement, just like trying to get people in there and knowledgeable about the situation. And then, John, the sewer lift on 51st Street, it is August. There's a smell. It's been smelling for years. I understand it's like at a dip in a hill, but like, come on, please.
Do you want to answer?
I think like, is there a solution there?
Not ready, maybe, but yeah, I can talk to our public works director on that, see if we can take a look, take another look.
We didn't think you were going to talk about poop here, did you?
I think before we move on to the next, I'll respond to Chris. I think we talked about really vamping up, and this came right after COVID. When I think before COVID, we had a pretty decent volunteer turnout, and then COVID happened, and then there were a bunch of restrictions put on volunteering at the district because of COVID, and then those restrictions were lifted, but the enthusiasm for volunteering was already gone. And so we talked about revamping our volunteer system, our volunteer program, and I think, and I'm not quite sure, but I think that there was a lot of work done on the website to communicate that the volunteer program was alive and well, and here's the way that you can go about volunteering. I think that there probably needs to be more work to be done. But honestly, I think that the push for volunteers needs to come from the school level. I think each and every school needs to market the opportunity to volunteer to their specific school communities. Because I think volunteers are much more willing to volunteer at a school that's in their immediate community. And I think we actually talked to some principals about that initiative taking place at school level. And of course, the initiatives should still happen at the district level. There should still be a way to sign up at the district level, but I think it's even more important for that message to be shared at the school level. So they have the schools have the opportunity to reach far more people than the service center does. Anything and everything that local school sends out with their students or in mailers.
Follow up question there. What is Joby Running actually do?
Well, I think distributes information, but when we're talking about volunteers and getting people out, volunteer, there's a lot of people that I think you talk to district. There's a lot of people in the community that even through the many different avenues that the district uses to communicate, we're just unable to reach. Either they're not on a phone list, they're not on social media, and they're not on an email list or actively excited to look into what's going on at the Marysville School District. But I think it's far more achievable if that is handled at the school level, being able to reach out to that direct local community. So.
I think I want to add to that. I think that Christy, you were talking about like the families and the parents and stuff. And I've thought that parents that are trying to draw parents in to volunteer and get involved might shed light on some of these issues. And then I know last year they were trying to turn some of the volunteers into parents when they're having a hard time filling those positions. And there is a new online volunteer sign up thing.
Can I make a really quick comment on that? The website is kept up to date very well. The last time there's been parents all over social media asking like what the school supply lists are for this year, and there's nothing at home with the school district about the 24-25 school year. And my other concern with the website, just to pass on feedback, it's really messy. It's hard to find things on that district website. So I will just pass on that feedback. It is really a struggle to find things on that website.
It was worked on last year by my daughter, trying to clean it up. But if you have anything specific, you can pass it on to me. She did try to organize it as best she could. And I know there's different ways of finding things on there. And the search, like when I go on, I haven't had issues, so.
Search function is the way to go.
Yeah.
And last year, the website, when they redid it, it looked great. It seems to be like as things get updated and then it goes to the new speed, it like kind of wonks everything.
If you're on your phone, maybe.
On desktop too. Like
Yeah.
it gets to the point where anything older than a couple hours you have to search.
Well, if you have any specific, you could pass it on to either IT or Ellie. Yeah. I don't know.
Seems kind of low on the priority.
A lot of vacations are happening right now in the district office too.
Got a question right here.
Jen Phipps retired from the Marysville School District Finance Department, and I have 3 questions. How many lawsuits are currently pending against the district, and how many are employee related?
I didn't come prepared with that number, so I'm not sure. I can't tell you the amount of lawsuits that are against the district.
I'm sure that the insurance company would have asked for this information in quoting the insurance. So I would like to know how many lawsuits are currently pending and how many are employee related. My second question is how many staff members are on paid administrative leave, and at what expense is that to the district every month?
I will write that question down. I think as far as the district level goes, I can tell you there's, if I'm not mistaken, 1 staff member on paid administrative leave. When it comes to like the school level, I don't know that answer, but I can get the cost breakdown of what that costs the district for anybody on administrative leave, what that's costing the district.
And my last question, on Monday, there was a posting for an athletic director position. And I was under the understanding that OSBI was notified that position was being cut. And that position was only posted for one day and then it disappeared. Can you tell me what's going on with that?
I think right now the district's intention is to not hire any open vacancies at this point until we have further conversation with the Financial Oversight Committee. And then I think as the need arises, we'll fill those positions. But as far as the athletic director, the last I heard was we were cutting the athletic director position. I think that was on the last budget that we submitted.
But that position was posted on the job board on Monday. It was only there for one day, Tuesday it disappeared. So I was just curious why you notified OSBI that was being cut. The position was posted as an open job.
Yeah, I imagine it might have been the system, the old system at, well, I know our athletic director retired. Maybe it was an instance where that position was posted and then it was told to take it down because it's not our latest subject. I don't know why it was there for a day and then come down.
Thank you. We got on questions. So my question to you is our district better off than it was 2 years ago? Because I feel like it's a worse situation financially than it was 2 years ago. And I think if you look at change in administration, you have to look towards who is the leader right now, driving our district into financial peril with no accountability. And I implore you that with his leadership, we have had two directors, executive director and director, file whistleblower complaints, and then he put on leave. So how many millions of dollars do you think that it's costing us to keep him in power? And can you, as a board, please take his power away? If your lawyers are saying you cannot put him on leave because he could sue us, I know there is a way for the board to take power back because he reports to you. So if you're letting him make those decisions on putting these people on leave, that's on you. You need to step up and say, no, we're going to look at every decision that's made and we're going to approve it or not approve it. And that's what I'm asking you to do. So my question is going to go to how you're keeping kids in our school district. My kids are heavily into athletics. My son got a full ride to college on athletics. My daughter's a state champion. When you talked about taking athletics away, there are people I know from Marysville Pilchuck that have left our district. I asked several years ago at a meeting about, do you know how many kids are leaving our district? Because our neighboring school districts have excellent programs. And I'm not just talking about athletics, because if this conversation is happening in people that have students that are into athletics, this conversation is happening with people in the music programs, in the band programs, in the arts programs. They're going to Arlington because they have great programs. They're going to Lake Stevens because they have great programs, but we just seem to cut them. And our kids are leaving because of this. And I'm gonna tell you, this is a conversation that we had in my household as to whether we were keeping our kids in this district because of the cuts that were coming to these programs. And I know it's a fine balance, and I know that we are in financial distress, but how much money are we losing because we don't have strong extracurricular programs for our kids to participate in? And I think that you saw this when earlier this year it was said that middle school athletics were not coming back, and people said, you made a promise. Our kids need things to do, and they need productive things to do. And I really want to know how you're going to get back to bringing these programs for all kids, so they have these programs to do better. And it goes along with school and doing well in school and our discipline problems. All these programs keep kids engaged, and our kids are leaving because we don't have them.
We didn't turn this thing on. I don't have a specific answer for you. I can tell you that I don't think that I would have even finished high school if it weren't for the programs that were provided when I went to school. It was an important part of my school pathway was having, and it was an important outlet for me when I was in school. And so I personally, I'm passionate about those sorts of programs, athletics, choir. I was in honors choir in high school, travel. Was blessed to be able to travel to Italy and New York and all those different places because of the choir program that my school provided. So I'm passionate about those programs. I think it's going to take financial stability if we want to see all programs flourish. The unfortunate part about the unfortunate thing when it comes to running programs, running good programs, is that most of the times that takes money. And I was at the Marysville parade that was just put on, and I think it was a middle school, and I can't remember what school district it was, but it wasn't ours. And it was a middle school band, marching band, and they had, every single one of them had the same uniform on, the same shoes on. I would even imagine they had the same socks issued to them. And Marysville doesn't have that. And it's not that Marysville doesn't want our students to be uniform. It's that I don't think that we can afford it. And I just want to touch on Suzette, as far as are we better off now than we were 2 years ago? I think the obvious answer is no. I mean, we've got financial oversight committee. We're in binding conditions, and again, the district is working to resolve issues that we have had as far as best practices when it comes to finance. But we also, the double levy failure was 2 years ago as well. And the ESSER funds ran out 2 years ago as well. And we have 500 less students than we did 2 years ago as well. So there's a lot of factors. I'm not saying that that some of those factors aren't bad practices from the district, but I don't think that's the only factor. I think it's a factor that we're working to resolve with the partnership of OSPI. But again, I think anytime a district has to talk about cuts, it's a hard conversation to have. And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I think most people realize that cuts have to happen somewhere. Where that happens, I think, is important. I think it's important that that gets deliberated within the community. I think that there's ample opportunity for the community's voice to be heard when those decisions take place. I wasn't here in 2008 or 2009, but the district was in, I would say, a similar situation when we were experiencing a financial crisis, and some of that was due to decline in enrollment, and some of it was due to state funding. And we were in a place then where the community came together, staff members came together, community members came together, parents, students came together, and were able to work with each other in a collaborative, constructive way to get Marysville out of that situation. And that was no thanks to the state, but the community did the work to make that happen. And so my hope is that we can get back to that place. I know that a lot of that is on the district's shoulders, right? I think most people want to be collaborative with somebody who they can't trust or who isn't transparent. But again, I think that there's a lot of positive momentum, although painful. I think there's a lot of positive momentum in that direction. I think I see an angst for collaboration, and so I would say that I'm excited about the future of Marysville. But again, although it's painful, we're in a painful position right now. I think that there's a lot of positive momentum happening as well. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. So my name is Tanya Timinglow. I'm a teacher at Cedar Crest 6th grade and parent to one Getchell graduate, one currently at Getchell. I was at an equity training last week, 350 people. The facilitator asked me to introduce myself to 250 people. And when I told them who I was, where I was from, I'm pretty sure you can imagine the audience reaction. When I said Marysville School District, it wasn't. I'm proud to be here to do the tough work, but 350 other educators from the state, I got awe and gasp and laughter, and it wasn't fun. So, I made a joke. I said, we're fine, OSB, I said, we're gonna be okay. But as an educator who loves Cedar Crest and my colleagues and wanting to continue to build that culture, we had a shift of administration. And I don't know if the board is involved with that or if it's just the director. But as a parent, I attended the Getchell principal interviews where it was just one candidate, and I supported him because he knows the school. And then we're not going to make a decision, to an email saying, this is what happened. We took one from here, we're taking that from here, and then I'm using Mr. Arnold, whom I love, our AP, and I was just like, what? And I see him in the building because if you don't know, your teachers are going into the routine. I invite you to come to our 6th grade hall every year to help mitigate the wild, the transition from 5th to 6th grade. Our 6th grade hall is a safe place. We do themes every year, and you know who's paying for those themes and decorations? It's the teachers. I've already put out $100 because we're doing cartoons this year. So we try to make it the best in our situation, but we can't keep leaning on the shoulders of such teachers because I've seen people quietly quitting. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not doing equity. And as a person of color, not getting that direction after Anelli left, not getting someone showing up to my fair that I put on for 3 years, not getting the coverage, it's unbalanced. So I already told equity team, I'm not doing Belt for a 4th year. I don't have direction, I don't have support. And when you have to hey, what are you doing in your Belt in another school? Why should we do that? We should have direction and actual meetings. We've had people go to these meetings at the district where it's just, we're sharing ideas and it's not really like a good facilitated meeting.
So we need to be better there. I think if you look at our population, you need to match your educators with your clientele, your students are people of color as well. So if you want to maintain someone who is happy to be here and can be mirrored in the students, you got to hear what we have to say sometimes. And so there's a lot of things I'm going to take back and just focus on being the best teacher I can, because it's taxing emotionally and it's taxing financially. And there's a lot of pre-work we do the first 2 months to make sure that we're not getting punched in the face or having our classrooms destroyed. So it's exhausting work, and we invite you to come down to Cedar Crest to look, but I'm still a little upset that Mr. Holland's now gonna be at Getchell. My daughter goes, at least I've got him, ha ha ha. But that whole switcheroo was, no, yeah, we had no say. And so I just reached out to him, I said, hey, man, sorry. He put in a lot of good relationships with the students. There's certain kids he works well with, there's certain programs he works well with, but now Getchell gets them, and that's how the email came across. Their gifts and talents are gonna be somewhere else, and will be great. So that's my take, thanks.
I will go ahead and wrap it up with this, because I know we're over time now. There's one final question on mine, and I think it really does a good job of kind of closing out the evening. First, it was online to say thank you to the board members and Mayor and Aaron for being here tonight. We really do appreciate your time. We know you were put on the hot seat, and we appreciate your attempt at answering our questions, and you did a wonderful job, and we thank you for having an open dialogue with us tonight. The question is a rhetorical one, of course, and it's when can we expect the executive administration, specifically Dr. Robbins, to come out and do the same? And I do hope that you guys will pass on to him that the community does want some feedback from him, because we don't feel like we're engaged with him at all.
Yeah, I know that you said that was rhetorical, but I do it. I know for me, it's obviously being here is counting, and being at the hospital is counting. And I've shared this with other folks. Every time I've been put in a situation, at the beginning, I felt like it was a little daunting. Afterwards, I left unscathed, and I left with good feedback, and I left feeling a sense, again, I keep going back to this, truly feeling a sense of a desire for collaboration, and I think that's a very helpful feeling for me to continue to get out in the community and have conversations like these. And again, I passed on my experience to folks, and that's as much as I can do. I do want to say thank you for putting this on, putting us being on. My experience has been great, and it's a good opportunity for me to be able to have a two-way conversation where in board meeting setting, just not there. There's tons of times where I wish I could respond the way that regular session meetings are set up. It's not how it's supposed to be done, which is unfortunate. I think it's purposeful in order to get business done. But opportunities like these provide me with the ability to share my vision as a board member, my values as a board member, where sometimes they can be misconstrued because of the lack of two-way conversation, the diet. So again, I'll always advocate to others, especially in the position that I'm in, to get out and talk to folks, and because you would be amazed at the amount of things that you have in common with people when you just talk to them. Like Chris Davis started running for the school thought that we could not be more opposite before. We had opportunities to sit down and talk to each other, and we figured out how much in common we do have. And we figured out that ultimately we have the same exact goal. We just had two different ideas for ads to get there. And when you start a conversation, understanding that you have this goal, the conversation becomes easier when you start talking about the pathway to get there. And the only way to accomplish that is through a setting like this, or a setting like at the Creamery, or Hagen's. I figured out Hagen's, as far as Marysville goes, is a great spot for conversations. It's not as loud. Yeah, again, I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. It truly is valuable for us to receive feedback like this in an uninformal way. So, informal way.
And yes, I want to say thank you. I was nervous, but I survived. I've said this before to people, so forgive me if you're sick of hearing it, but my grandparents graduated from Marysville schools. My mom was class of 65. My husband who's here with me was 91 here at MP. I was 92. My brother, cousins, we have I'm part of the Baxter clan, if you know the Baxters, but it's heartbreaking to see the state of our schools. And one of the main reasons that I did this was because I want to bring it back to when I was here at MP, and our biggest problem was beating snow mesh. I mean, we were thriving, and I think we can do that. So don't give up on the sport, please.
I'll just add my thanks as well. Thanks for putting this on. Thanks for the invitation to come. You all did a really nice job as two representatives from our school board tonight. Appreciate you answering the questions you did. And with 3 kids who graduated from Marysville schools as well, we had a really good experience. And sports and extracurricular activities were a very significant part of that. So I forget now who made that point, but it was another good one. So thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys for coming.